everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Think Big, Do Good, Missouri Farm Bureau's video podcast, in which we feature leaders not only in Missouri, but all across the country who are truly thinking big, doing good, and making an impact on people's lives. I'm here in Springfield, Missouri at the world headquarters for Convoy of Hope, and I am joined today by Hal Donaldson, the CEO and president of Convoy of Hope. Hal, thank you for joining today.
Great to be with you, Garrett. Thanks for the invite.
So I had the chance to meet you and your wife, Dory, in 2013 on a trip to Haiti to see firsthand the great work that you are doing and working with farmers there, and just to get a small glimpse of the work that Convoy does all around the world.
Well, thank you for making that trip.
Well, it was life-changing for me, eye-opening in a lot of ways. And you have been on my list of people for some time to introduce to our members because you truly are, you and your team, your family, you're making such a difference.
Well, thank you for that.
You know, as we kick off the conversation today, I think it'd be good just to maybe take a step back.
Great.
Where did you grow up? And just give us more of your upbringing.
Yeah, I grew up in California and the East Bay. So yes, I'm a San Francisco Giant, San Francisco 49ers fan, and the Bay Area. And my father was hit by a drunken driver when I was 12, and so that really rocked our world, you know, and that changed everything. So I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and I was raised by a single mother in the Bay Area who was doing her best to get off of welfare, and she despised food stamps and wanted to get beyond food stamps, and but that was our upbringing, you know, holes in the shoes, holes in the jeans. That was before it was cool to have holes in your jeans, and right, it wasn't really cool back then. And you know, and days had to go to school without a sack lunch in our hands just because things were really tight. So yeah, that's where I was raised, the Bay Area.
So I remember as we talked in the airport and at different times during the trip, you talked about taking tragedy but turning it into good. And I remember you talking about people who surrounded you and your siblings to help during that difficult time.
Good memory, yes. So the night of the accident, the police came to tell us, you know, my parents had been hit, and my mother was seriously injured. She was in the car as well, and you know, she would suffer really the rest of her life. But that night, a number of family members and friends began to show up at the house, and there was a police officer stepped up, and he just said, "Okay, is there anyone here who's willing to take the 4 children home with them tonight? Otherwise, we'll take them downtown to the station." And this one young couple, they raised their hands and they said, "Hey, we'll take them." And their names were Bill and Levada Davis. And all they owned was a small trailer. They had kids of their own. And so at one point, 10 of us were living in their single wide trailer. I mean, amazing. Yes, amazing people. And I'm sure they thought it was going to be a 1 or 2 nights sleepover. We ended up living with them for about a year, and incredible. But Bill Davis, he saw I was really hurting. You know, I had lots of questions, lots of insecurities. And he comes up to me one day, and Garrett, he puts his arm on my shoulder and he said, "Hey, Hal, listen to me. Don't allow the tragedy of your youth to become a lifelong excuse, because where you start in life doesn't have to dictate where you end." And those words have really rung true for me.
So as you think about those words, Hal, at what point as a youth or a young man did you feel the turn in terms of the need to give back, to pay it forward, if you will, from what you experienced as a child?
Yeah, I think it really happened in my 20s, because when you are living in poverty, you begin this quest not to be poor anymore, and that was my quest. And I thought the best way to escape poverty was through education. So I worked my way through college, earned several degrees, and began writing books in my 20s. I got a job as a ghostwriter. I have a journalism degree. And so one of those book projects took me to Calcutta, India, to write a book for some missionaries there. And when I landed, they said, "Well, we want you to interview Mother Teresa for our book."
Wait, Mother Teresa?
Mother Teresa, yes. I was 29 years of age. And here I am, one-on-one interview with Mother Teresa. And in the course of the interview, she just turns the tables on me and she just says, young man, let me ask you a question. What are you doing to help the poor and the suffering? And, I figured it was not a good idea to lie to Mother Teresa, right? So I told her the truth. I said, I'm really not doing much of anything. And she said, well, everyone can do something. Just do the next kind thing that God puts in front of you. Well, those words were haunting for me. They were. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes. So fast forward, I came back to the States from Calcutta after being there for 3 weeks. And I felt compelled to do something quite unusual. And that was to travel to 8 cities and to live in the streets for 3 days and 3 nights. And so I went to Miami, Atlanta, Chicago, DC, New York, major cities. I rode with the police on the midnight shift. I walked the streets after midnight, interviewing drug addicts and gang members, prostitutes and runaways, and the homeless with a hidden tape recorder. And all I can tell you is that, it just broke my heart. And I came back from one of those trips 31 years ago, and I loaded up a pickup truck with $300 worth of groceries. And I went out and I started passing out food to migrant farm workers in Northern California. And that really was the start of Convoy of Hope 31 years ago, from the back of a pickup truck.
So $300, was that your savings? Like what?
Yeah, it was $300 I had in an account, and I just, I figured, well, I can empty this account. My wife's not going to know I did it. And so
Dory is a saint.
Yeah, she is a saint. Yeah. And, it wasn't anything like pre-planned. I borrowed a pickup truck from a friend, and I just went and did it. And that day, Garrett, it's just like, okay, this is my destiny. This is what I've been called to do. And so after that, I said to my family and to my friends, I said, hey, why don't you guys come and let's do it again? And let's do it again, and then again. And they just continued to grow from pickup trucks, U-Haul trailers, to box trucks, and then eventually semi-trucks. And we were no longer just helping, dozens or hundreds of people. We were helping thousands, and that would attend these big events. And at first it was just giving away groceries, right? Uh-huh. And vegetables and fruits and that sort of thing. But then we expanded the menu to include free medical and dental care and job fairs and shoes for kids and free haircuts. And I think the beauty of it is, and was even then, being able to bring together businesses, churches, civic organizations, governments, all together to touch their city, and kind of tearing down those arbitrary walls and just getting people to work together. And that's really been the story of Convoy of Hope.
How you tore down barriers, you formed these partnerships. You often hear from people who just get discouraged that it just seems like there's one barrier or one hurdle after another. Oh, yeah. How did you do that? Because obviously you didn't just take no for an answer, right? You were persistent. Yeah. How did you do it?
Yeah, well, I think at first you have to realize that no one has a monopoly on compassion. We all care. We all want our communities to be a better place to live. And so I think when you can get people to agree on that there's a need in your community, and we have the resources, we have the capacity in our hands to make a difference in the lives of thousands of people. That really was our message. And that's a tough message to walk away from, when you really can make a difference in someone's life. And what I tell people too is these citywide festivals that continue to happen across the United States, they're really about connectivity. We're connecting people to social programs, to civic organizations, to churches that provide ongoing care. That's the long-term goal. One bag of groceries, one pair of shoes, a backpack for kids going back to school, medical and dental screenings. That's going to help people on the short term. But it's the long-term relationships that come from these events that really change people's lives.
So I have to ask, you started changing lives in communities across California.
Yeah.
What was the turning point that led you to America's Heartland and to Springfield?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I was incredibly fortunate in that we had started Convoy of Hope. We'd only been operating for about a year, very small, but I was offered a job by the church that I was belonged to be their editor in chief of their international magazine. We had a circulation of about 250,000, 250,000 people. So you had really an opportunity to influence people and take my journalism background and to really apply it to something that really was important. And so I took that job on one condition, that I could bring Convoy of Hope with me. And we had a few employees, and I said, I'd like to bring them all with me, and we'd like to set up shop right here in Missouri. And they said, yeah, well, you can do that. I don't think they knew what they were agreeing to at the time, right? But because it just began to explode, and then it became very apparent that I couldn't do both, and that I'm a person of faith, and I just believe that God breathed a blessing on Convoy of Hope, and it just began to grow exponentially. And we began to expand internationally, to do work internationally as well, and respond to disasters, and it just was growing. And today, Garrett, it's according to Forbes, it's the 27th largest charity in the United States.
Oh my goodness.
I know it's been an amazing run these 30 years, and we're grateful.
Well, for many of our members, they see your semi trucks rolling down the highway, just emblazoned with Convoy of Hope, the reminder that you all are everywhere, particularly after disasters.
Thank you. Thank you.
I read about, the continued community interaction in terms of fairs that are trying to connect people to resources, your international work, your children's feeding. At what point did you say we need to be more involved in agriculture and helping people learn how to feed themselves?
Yeah. So when you're feeding children, so we had started a feeding program, and it started very small, but today we're feeding 639,000 children every day, right? But it started with almost nothing to that. And there were two things that we observed in the Children's Feeding Initiative, is that parents would bring their children to the feeding program, because we feed kids in school. Why do we do that? Because if you feed them in school, the parents keep the kids in school. If you don't feed them in school, they're going to have their children out scavenging or begging for food in the streets, right? And so it's really smart to feed them in school. That way it guarantees they get an education. But we found that parents were bringing their children, and the parents were just hanging around. And so our thought was, okay, what if we help the mothers start their own businesses? What if we gave them job training? If they could start their own businesses and earn an income, then they could be feeding their own kids. And what if we could help the farmers, the parents, what if we could help them develop gardens? And what if we could help them increase their yields? Then they could be feeding themselves. And so that really was the metamorphosis of it, was children's feeding. But okay, the parents are hanging around and they're not doing anything. What if we could get them really productive? And so last year I think it was about 40,000 farmers that we were able to train, and so helping them increase their yields, sometimes 200, 300%, and also educating children. It's one of the things we do like we have over 4,000 feeding stations in schools around the world, and we actually teach these young people how to do agriculture and best practices. And as you can imagine, they go home and they teach their parents. And so again, it's just a way of helping people be productive and self-sustaining.
Well, I can tell you, when we went to Haiti and Dr. Struble was on that trip, you take farmers here, right? We are so blessed with technology and tools that really are remarkable. And what I learned when we went to Haiti is you got to keep it simple, right?
That's
you got to
right.
keep it basic.
That's right.
It has to be sustainable, because they don't have all the tools that we have access to on any given day.
That's right.
I'm blessed when something breaks, I can run in town to the hardware,
right?
Or I can go to the equipment dealer just across town.
Yeah.
It's not the same there.
That's right.
So
That's right.
it's pretty amazing how you have started simple in terms of trying to figure out what are the most basic things that we can do to improve yield, to not only help them feed their families, but then have enough
Yeah.
to sell,
That's
right?
exactly right.
And so between Anson Elliott and Chris Huff and Dr. Dirt, as
Right.
Jason calls
Right.
himself, like
Right.
you have quite the nucleus of folks who have been doing just tremendous work in helping plant those seeds.
Yes. That's
Those-
really the untold story of Convoy,
yeah.
of how all these people from different walks of life and different skill sets, how they've been brought together to really accomplish something that's really important to people's future.
So obviously we're sitting here at the world headquarters that
Yeah.
is still pretty new.
Yeah.
Everything still smells fresh. The vision to have this global center, and I know the vision doesn't just stop with just the current footprint. Talk to us about your vision.
Yeah. So with this facility, we were working in 4 different facilities, and so we had staff in 4 different locations. And so that really the start was, well, is there a way we could bring everybody together, and that would create some synergy for Convoy of Hope? And so I went to the board and our board of directors, and I just said, okay, hey, do you have the faith? Do you have the vision to raise $70 million in new money, fresh money? Because at Convoy, we cannot divert or deflect $1 from our mission. We've got kids to feed, we've got women to empower, we have farmers to help, and so we don't want the mission to become the building, right? And a lot of times organizations do that. They kind of put their mission on hold while they're building a building, and I just said we can't do that. And can we raise that kind of money? And I looked around the room and they were nodding their heads, and before I knew it, a motion was made to launch into a $70 million capital campaign. And Garrett, because of the generosity of people and businesses and corporations and God's blessing, we were able to walk into this facility debt-free. We raised the entire 70.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're grateful.
Now you experience the generosity of people every day, right?
Yeah, I really
Like,
do.
it really is mind-boggling. The first time I walked through the new warehouse, just the supply of water and just staples, even
Yeah.
paper products. It's mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
How does the team even begin to manage like logistics of not only receiving generosity, but then deploying just the generosity to people in need?
Yeah, the short answer is that we've grown up with it, and we've learned a lot through trial and error. We've learned what not to do. We've learned best practices, and here at Convoy, we're not afraid to fail. We're very entrepreneurial. We're not afraid to fail as long as we learn something from it. And I think over these 30 years, we've assembled an incredible group of people, but we've learned a lot through the trial and error of it. And we have one need I'll just mention right now that's kind of dear to our hearts, is that in a few days we're breaking ground on a new manufacturing and packaging facility. And here's the reason for that, is that we're feeding 639,000 children, but we have a waiting list, and we of children who have been vetted that we want to get into the feeding program. But our suppliers, food suppliers, grain, commodities, they're at capacity. And so we figured, well, we need some vertical integration, and we need to control our own supply chain. And so we will break ground on this facility that it's going to produce like a stew mix of rice and beans and soy and dehydrated vegetables. But we'll also be able to use it for pasta and cereals and dried foods, a variety of kinds. And so that will be that ground will be broken next week. And really the goal is to the first year we think we'll produce 250 million meals, and and then when it's fully operational, it'll be over 1 billion meals every year. But we're really excited about that, and so we're going to be talking to a lot of farmers in the days ahead, because we need rice, soy, we need beans, dehydrated vegetables, a lot of different grains to really make it possible.
Wow. So you're going to manufacture. When you think about just distribution,
Yeah.
do you have footprints in other parts of the country that allow you to respond in a rapid fashion?
We do. So we have a distribution center in Sacramento, California, which
Okay.
is Central Valley, which makes a lot of sense. One of the farming capitals of the United States, right? And then also Atlanta. Atlanta makes a lot of sense because it's to respond to disasters, but also it really gives us access to the entire East Coast. And so those two locations, but that's not where the vision stops. We have dreams of establishing these regional distribution centers really across the country.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we need that to happen.
Yeah.
We do. So that is the goal.
Well, it really is remarkable. As we've had this conversation, I've heard the word empowerment multiple times.
Yeah.
And from you being challenged to empower yourself, right? That just because of where you were, that wasn't the end destination. You know, as we sat in the airport on our return home, I will never forget the conversation that you and Dory, we were sitting there and you explained we have children's empowerment, we have women's empowerment. And at some point in the conversation, you're like, I'd like to do more for men.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, we're like, agriculture, what you all are doing, there's nothing more than a father or mother want to do is be able to feed their own family, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so agriculture is family empowerment.
Yeah,
it is
that's right.
men's empowerment.
Yeah.
So it truly is, you know, this organization is not only focused on the individual, but the family and the community
very much.
unit.
Yes, very true.
It's remarkable.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You know, today you've helped us invite in a number of youth from this region and even as far away as Warrensburg. They're all going to participate in a day of service and helping pack meals for the summer feeding program.
We're grateful for that. Yes, very much. Very much.
It really is tremendous. And we are so thankful and blessed to have Convoy of Hope here in Missouri.
Thank you.
That our nation truly is better for the work that you are doing.
We're extremely grateful, and the partnership with you as well. And you know, I people ask me, well, how did this happen? I said, well, it began with us doing what we say we're going to do, and under promising, over delivering, and operating at a real high level of integrity. That's really important to us. And you know, if we keep doing that, we're going to continue to meet a lot of needs.
Well, think big, do good. What is that? How does that hit you? What does that do in speaking to your heart?
Yeah, you know, I've had the privilege of traveling all over the world. You know, I think I've been in 85, 86 countries, something like that. And I've seen a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. And again, as a person of faith, I believe that God wants to help people. And he's just looking for people who are willing to do what they can. And so, yeah, and when I look at Convoy's 650 employees, we're just trying to do good and think big and help as many people as we can.
Couldn't have said it better.
Oh, thanks.
Well, folks, this has been a special edition of Think Big, Do Good from the Convoy of Hope World Headquarters. It truly has been an honor to be able to sit down with Hal Donaldson. Again, Hal, you made such an impact on my life in 2013 when I had the chance just to see a glimpse of the work that Convoy is doing.
Thank you.
And it truly is really cool to be able to record this at a time that we're doing what I hope becomes an annual tradition of a day of service with our FFA and 4-H youth here in Missouri. So, folks, you've heard it from Hal himself. He's going to need more of you as the conversation continues and carrying forward this vision of Convoy of Hope. So stay tuned for more information. As always, thanks for all that you do, and let's keep thinking big and doing good. Take care.